Welcome, everyone, to the Sunday Night Show. We are live this week, and we are having a very special guest. He is a very dear friend of mine, a mentor. I wouldn't be where I am at today without this man being in my life. So I will say that. So without further ado, I will allow him to share who he is, because if you know him, you'll understand why. So I will let you take it away.
For those of you who do not know my name is David J. Hardy, and it is so good to be with you this very evening.
So, Dave, can you just share a little bit about who you are? Obviously, we now know your name, but could you share a little bit about who you are and just some more information for the fans at home?
Sure, yeah. So I was a youth pastor, full-time youth pastor for 12 years. We had a fantastic time. I was a youth pastor at Chippewa Alliance Church. We did all sorts of amazing, awesome things, had a fantastic youth group and college ministry. Actually started a second service at the church, and it was fantastic for a long period of time. It was so fantastic that Tyler was a part of our gigantic events that we had. We actually had an event called the Turkey Bowl that had, at one point in time, 444 students in attendance. Yes, indeed. I'm going to brag for a second. That's a lot of kids. Like, we almost all died, right? Like, not the kids, the leaders. But 444 kids, a lot of great memories, a lot of good stuff. And in September, I decided to take a step in the direction of becoming a full-time youth speaker, to be a youth evangelist, youth speaker, to go around speaking. And I also make all of the t-shirts for our denomination, Tyler, the one that Tyler and I are a part of, and many of you are part of, the Christian Missionary Alliance. So I make the t-shirts I made the t-shirts for the Life Conference, and I make t-shirts for churches and organizations and everything like that. Kind of funny that I chose the worst time in the last 100 years to go into business as a small business owner and a speaker for large events, because all large events have been canceled, and t-shirt sales are on the decline right now because people aren't allowed to leave their homes. So we'll see how that pans out for me, Tyler. Who knows if I'm going to be able to feed my family in the next month or so. I don't know, but I know right now I got $22,000 worth of merchandise downstairs in my basement. So if anybody wants a t-shirt, please, I know where to get you one.
Yeah, and I know all the great deals. I learned from our other very good friend, Pastor Lou, how to have the best deals possible. So if you are looking for a shirt, I know a guy, and I know how to get you the Tyler hookup. So you can go online to, I believe, what's the website?
So it's alliancemerchstore.com. Alliancemerchstore.com. That takes you right to the store. Or lifemerch.com, and you go to the store section. Or hardyware.com, go to the store section. There's a lot of places you can go.
And anywhere you go, you can type in promo code Tyler, and you will get the Tyler special. And if it's not a thing yet, we better make it a thing, right, Dave?
Oh, it's happening. It's going to happen. Yeah, I'm going to upcharge them 50%.
So Dave, why don't you share a little bit more? Do you have a family? Where are you located now? We know that you were in Chippewa. Where is Chippewa for us up in Erie and maybe anywhere else? We have no idea where that is or who you are or anything like that. So share a little bit more.
Yeah, so Chippewa, it's funny. I'm from a place, if you're watching from somewhere that's not in Western Pennsylvania, people will always wonder, why all of the Native American names? Trust me, we've named everything you can imagine after the hardest to pronounce Native American names ever. So I live in a land where everything's named after, like Chippewa, Aliquippa, Monaca, Monongahela, all of those things. But Chippewa I'll tell you this. Okay, if this is Pennsylvania, there we go. This is Pennsylvania. I'm right about here. I'm as close to Ohio as you can get. If I was really ambitious, I could walk to Ohio in like a day. No, I'm pretty close to Ohio. So it's Beaver Falls. Some of you may know. Some of you football historians may know. Joe Namath is actually from Beaver Falls. I went to Geneva College, so I went to Geneva College and got a job at Chippewa Alliance Church, which is right up the road. I grew up here. I grew up in Center Township, which is about a half an hour down the road. So that's where I'm from, right about here, Western Pennsylvania. I do have a family, and they're wonderful and they're awesome. My wife, Tara, and we actually met in youth group. I was a senior and she was a sophomore. I was the president of the youth group and she was absolutely terrified of me. But seriously, like the first time I met her, I totally freaked her out. But she kept coming to youth group and, we ended up dating and we fell in love. Can I tell you a real quick story of how I fell in love with my wife?
Yeah, sure.
This is a fantastic, so I'm telling you. So this is years later. We were both adult leaders. This is like, 6-7 years later after youth group. And we were not dating at the time, but in youth group, there was an impromptu pizza fight that broke out because we had too much pizza. The youth pastor, Brian Neville, he bought too much pizza. And so we were throwing pizza at each other in the youth room. And Tara threw a piece of pizza at me and hit me directly in the throat. It was like a throwing star, like a ninja throwing star. It hit me in the throat. So I was like enraged, right? So I went and I caught her and I actually took a piece of pizza and I shoved it into her face. Like I was shoving it in her face.
That's perfect.
And as I'm telling you, as I removed the piece of pizza, I looked at her pizza covered face and I realized I'm in love with this woman. And she looked back at me in absolute rage. I believe she kicked me in an area that I can't talk about online. And then she ran downstairs and smothered pizza all over my car. Like she covered my car in an entire box of pizza. And it was in that moment that I knew that I was desperately in love with this woman and I had to make her mine. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then Tara and I have been married we're coming up on 12 years now. 12 years. We've got 3 children. I know, crazy, right? We've got 3 children. We've got Josiah. He is 9. We have Malachi. He is 6. And we have Indigo, and she is 1.5. Wow. So we've got 3 kids, and we've got a really ugly dog. Her name's Sparta. She's a black pug. She's so ugly, she's cute. Before that, we had another black pug. His name was Sparky. So clearly the Hardy family has a thing with black pugs. When Sparta dies, I'll go get me another black pug and name it something like Sparky Spartamus. I don't know, some derivative of that name.
That's awesome. And hey, if you are watching at home, please let us know. Swing by, say hello. If you have any questions for me or for Pastor David tonight, please ask them. We are just going to be just chatting about life. So, Dave, you were the youth pastor for how long?
12 years.
12 years.
Wonderful, beautiful, blissful years.
12 years. And you have a wonderful story about your wife before you guys were in love or anything. And I think that reminds me of a story that I have. So we're going to talk about how myself, my wife, Amy, and you are connected a little bit. But I remember my first year at Suncrest, which is an Alliance camp. If you are up in Erie, it's kind of like the Edinburgh of Beaver County. So my first year ever going to a church camp, I was kind of new to church in general. I remember Amy, so outgoing, so kind, so relaxed of who she is. She saw that I was that awkward middle school boy that was like by himself, that was like not enjoying camp at all. And she wanted to play a game of basketball. What she did not know is that this little boy was very competitive and he hated losing. Still hate losing today, still very competitive, but I'm able to control it a little bit better than I was when I was younger. You see, Amy was destroying me in basketball. And at one point,
because she was like a foot taller than you.
Yeah. She was taller than me. So
Yeah.
thankfully she stopped growing and I grew a little bit more. So I'm a little bit taller than my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And I played football and I wrestled. I never played basketball. She did play basketball when her school did have a basketball team. And I am like a physical person. I wrestled. I played football. I love physical sports. When I play basketball, it's so hard because I am used to like bumping into somebody or anything. And I just tell people when I play pickup basketball, I'm like, look, I don't know how to play. I'm a heavy physical guy. I'm not that athletic anymore. I think I am. I'm not. I can't shoot. And I'll have like one good game and then you'll never want me on your team. Please tell me if I foul you. Well, back then I didn't really care. So what happened was Amy went for a layup as she was dominating me. And I decided in that moment, I am going to end this. So I went in and I just shoved her. So she's going up for the layup and I just shove her. And I believe she did a flip. Thankfully, there was grass near the court. So she landed gracefully in the grass. And I think in that moment is when she began to fall in love with me. Whether she meant to or not, she was literally falling. And eventually we got married and fell in love. In reverse order, we fell in love, then we got married. So I just think that it all started there in that shove. That the trajectory was Amy and I eventually falling in love and getting married.
Tyler, this is borderline disturbing that both of us fell in love with our future spouses when we were borderline like attacking them.
Yes.
There's something deeply disturbing about this if you extrapolate that to the logical conclusion.
Dave, you're a big superhero guy, right?
I am.
Yes. I feel like I would be – now just think about this. I'm gonna pitch this to you. I feel like I would be your like if you're Donkey Kong, I would be Donkey Kong Jr.
Okay.
Because think about all the years that I served as your leader and I was compared to you. There would be times where we go to retreats and I had my beard. They would come to me thinking I was you. Yep, we have a very similar origin story for how we treated our future spouses and how they so gracefully decided to still love us.
In all fairness, our wives could still to this day beat us up.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's any act on our part is complete futility, and they can totally beat us up.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So there's no question about that.
There's a reason why I don't play like board games with Amy. She's super competitive too, and I was bad when we were dating. I didn't realize the after effect. So guys, girls, if you're dating someone, do not blow up on them if you're playing a game because they very well could be your spouse and you very well could never be able to play that game that you so love with them ever.
You are unbelievably good at board games too. You're like deceiving
the games that I play. I'm good at.
But see, I'm smart. It's insane how good you're at those games.
See, I've been telling my secret a little bit more. Maybe the social distancing has made me go a little crazy, but I've learned and I've seen, I looked deep inside who I am and I learned that I'm not just good at board games. In any game, board game, video game, a physical game, it's not about the game. It's about who you're playing. You got to get in their head. So when I play Monopoly or Risk, when I got some like properties lined up and they're coming towards me, I count how many spaces they need to land. And I tell them, Dave, you need to roll a 4, an 8, or a 12. And you know what you're going to do? You're going to roll a 4, 8, or 12. That's just what happens. I get in your head. That's how. But so Amy, I don't play board games with Amy. Like during social distancing, she came up to me and she's like, hey, do you want to play Monopoly? I was like, what? You want to play Monopoly?
She's really bored. Like, bottom of the barrel.
Yeah. And you know, she beat me. She beat me again. So she holds that over me. But there are so many similarities between you and I that I very well, if this life was about being superheroes and you were a superhero, I very well could be your sidekick or you're like your junior. I would be the Robin to take over.
You know what happens
when he goes.
But you know what happens to Robin usually, right? Like Robin's like the first one to die. So that's a little nerve wracking. I don't want you to be, I don't want you to become Jason Todd or anything like that. You know what I mean?
No, maybe
like, I think Batman's on his like 5th Robin right now.
Yeah, maybe I'm like Dick Grayson. Maybe it's not that we had a bad falling out. Maybe it's just like I grew up and now I'm able to do my thing. So I left the nest and I am my own person in youth ministry now. So maybe that's it.
I'm loving this metaphor. You definitely are Dick Grayson. You're definitely Dick Grayson. There's no doubt about it. I wonder who like the other adult leaders are. So who would that make Johnny?
I don't know.
If you're Nightwing, then who's Johnny?
I don't know. I feel like I kind of just jumped the gun and took over, jumped ahead of Johnny. Johnny was definitely like the next one that was being formed and molded, and he's doing great in ministry. Maybe we'll get him in here too. But he just doesn't have the body shape or the weird stories to go along with being your sidekick, your number two. Like, he's not compared to Dave all the time.
I hear you. Yeah, I know.
It's just –
he's his own person.
But, yeah, he's his own person. Me, I'm not. I'm the guy that when you're walking into Walmart and you see me, you stare at me blankly for a while, and then you realize I'm not the person you're thinking of, so you apologize for staring at me so hard. True story. Wasn't even the Walmart closest to me. I was in Edinburgh from a retreat or a camp, and I was walking out of Walmart, and this lady was walking in. She's just staring blankly at me, and I get it. I got a familiar face, but she's like staring, and I'm just like, yeah, hi, yeah. Do I know you? I don't know you. And she goes, oh, I am so sorry. You just look like someone I know. I'm like, I get that a lot. It's okay. I won't be offended.
You have a very familiar face.
I do. So that's just how it is. So let's get back to a little bit about more who you are. You shared that you went to Geneva, which I heard is a great college. I'm not just saying that because I still owe a lot of money to them, but I am saying that because I did enjoy the education I also got there. Another moment of the Dick Grayson storyline to becoming my own Nightwing, if you know those references. But Dave, why did you choose to go to Geneva?
Listen, I didn't choose Geneva. Geneva chose me. It was predestined, my friend. Predestined for me to. You like that one, don't you? I was predestined to go to Geneva College. Oh, wow. For our Reformed friends out there, they get the joke, and the rest of you have no idea.
They're like, I thought this was Alliance guys. Why are they talking this way?
Oh, trust me, I get in trouble with the Alliance over it too. So, well, here's the deal. So, Geneva College, I knew I felt called into youth ministry at Suncrest Camp in about the year 2000. It was the summer of 2000.
Yeah.
Don Jones was the speaker. Jonesy, yeah, we love Jonesy.
Yeah, he's still part of he's back in the district, I believe.
Trust me, I know. Every time I see him, I try to wrestle him, and he still beats me, and he's like 65 years old. Yes, he bites it, too, which is
it's dangerous.
a little awkward.
He's a dangerous man. That's the only thing I remember about Jonesy is that he told a story about how when he would go to the pool, he'd grab people's big toes. And I believe one year at camp, I just did that, and every leader was so mad at me for trying to be like Jonesy. But please continue. I'm sorry.
But anyhow, so Jonesy gave an altar call or a response time for those who felt called in full-time ministry. I had not felt called prior to that, but I believe that I received a definitive call from the Lord to minister. And so from that point forward, my trajectory was going to be youth ministry. And listen, I want to do youth ministry as long as I possibly can. A lot of what I'm doing right now is just me trying to stay in youth ministry.
Yeah.
My ultimate goal is to be a youth evangelist. And the crazy thing is prior to this pandemic, I was achieving that. I had 12 events on my calendar from March until May. I was getting booked kind of all over the place. I mean, I spoke in Michigan, New Jersey, Minnesota. I was headed to West Virginia, Alabama, Pennsylvania. I had a few obviously in Pennsylvania this summer. I was getting booked all over the place. So it was really, really cool. So that's what I was trying to do. But why did I go to Geneva? I honestly, proximity. I'm a hometown boy, and probably always will be. I embrace that now. But I like Geneva. Geneva was a great experience for me. I mean, obviously, there were some difficult classes like poli-sci that I absolutely hated and loathed. Yeah, I remember trying to coach you through poli-sci.
Yeah,
it was tough, but you made it.
Yeah, I
You
did.
made it.
I'm here to say I'm on the other side of it. I am here to say that Poli-Sci is the final Bowser of Geneva College.
It's I don't
Final boss.
when
It's
I
the
was
final
there,
whatever.
I used to say it was the final flaming hoop that you had to jump through to graduate.
Yep.
You're 100% right. Whatever euphemism you want to use. But yeah, so I had some fantastic professors. Terry Thomas. Terry Thomas.
Great man, great professor.
Jesus, Terry Thomas, right? I learned so much from that man about ministry, youth ministry, life. Some fantastic professors. Byron Curtis blew my mind.
Amazing man, also.
Yeah.
Amazing professor.
The whole.
They're all still there.
Most of them.
Isn't that crazy? You had them. I had them. The students that are going to Geneva now have them.
I know.
They're still
There's
trucking.
some longevity. Yeah, it's awesome to see.
Yeah,
it's absolutely awesome to see. So, yep. For
That's
sure.
Awesome.
So yeah, I had a great time at Geneva. I hope Geneva continues to make it after this pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm really scared for colleges in general right now. Christian higher education. I'm a little nervous. I hope they make it. We'll see what happens. But I highly recommend Geneva. I think Geneva is a great school.
Yeah, and I think you can say that because you might be done paying them. So you can just flat out say that you enjoyed Geneva, that you appreciate them, and that you are freely giving the push to go to Geneva. So
I finally paid my loans off. I'm 36 years old. I paid my loans off. As Dave Ramsey would say, I am debt-free, baby.
You paid your debts. You are a free man.
Society and Geneva College. I am free.
Mostly to Geneva College, not even society. You just paid to Geneva, everything.
Just Geneva.
Well, it's good that you don't have to offer Josiah up now to Geneva because you're able to pay off your debt.
I was thinking about it.
You're debating.
It was getting really scary, but we made it.
Yeah. I would say, knowing your boys, that if you had to give up one, I would send Malachi because they'd probably send him back because he'd destroy everything.
Right. Yeah. So, Malachi would be like the covert operation. I'd send him in to destroy them from within.
Yeah. Malachi, I want you to destroy.
Yeah.
Just take your time, little by little.
That's it. He doesn't even have to take his time. Malachi
I don't think he would. Josiah might take his time. Malachi just go in and just start flipping desks and everything else.
Do you know what it's like to have them completely quarantined, in the house 24/7, every day?
I'm imagining you're just having pro wrestling pay-per-view after pay-per-view with them. That's what I would do if I was stuck at your house, because that's what we used to do all the time. In case you didn't know, anytime when I was in college, anytime David and Tara had to go do something, I was the one that was called. And I loved it. I had the opportunity to watch the boys all the time. And it was either the floor is lava or we would have some wrestling match, which they both – so get this. Both boys didn't like to lose, and there always had to be a winner.
There did.
So I got out of that one too. So I'm a survivor of many things. So, yeah. Which, speaking of survivor – Pastor Dave, what did you just do this weekend? Where were you? What were you doing?
I spoke at your online Zoom retreat, which actually was very, for me, refreshing. It's not, obviously, listen, it's not the same, and we know it's not the same, but man, it was cool. For being a Zoom retreat, it was a lot. Yeah, you did a really good job running it. Matt and Jenny did a great job with worship.
They did.
I think it was a great weekend. I think it was exciting. It was fun to do. So spoke once Friday, twice Saturday, once today. Great time.
Yeah. So if any of you guys during the social distancing are trying to plan something for your youth group and find someone outside to speak or anything, please hit up Dave, because he did a great job. The students really, really were encouraged and challenged by his words. And Dave has just a gift of storytelling and connecting it in a way that sticks. So thank you again, Dave, for doing that. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Good. I'm glad it was your pleasure. I remember something you always said was if someone offered to help, you're like, oh, you're writing an open check, my friend. And I remember you said something like that, and I had the opportunity to quote you back whenever I got the job up here. So.
Oh yeah. That blank check that you write, I'll just keep throwing zeros on the end of it.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'll throw zeros on until it bounces.
So outside of social distancing, outside of where we're at right now, you you've transitioned to do full graphic design artwork for many people. You're still doing that right now. You are also travel and have the opportunity to speak at different youth groups, conferences, retreats, all the other stuff. So in your free time, what do you like to do? Do you like to just continue to draw? Like, do you draw all the time? Do you, like, when you wake up, do you start speaking at the mirror? Like, or do you have like a thing you do? Like, what do you do, Dave, when you have that free time?
I mean, listen, I'm going to tell you right now. I'm not even kidding. I'll tell you exactly here. I'll show you what I did. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. Can people see me, by the by? Or this is on Zoom, right?
Yeah, people can see you.
All right. So, like, in between the Zoom meeting in between the retreat, the Zoom meeting and everything, I'm actually working on a comic book. So I've had to like transition some of my time because I can't go to events and speak and whatnot. So I know you can't see this at all because there's going to be a glare. This is my iPad Pro. I am laying out my comic book.
Okay.
Again, you can't see it, but that I mean between. So you said, okay, Dave, you're done speaking, and I went and I started on issue 1 of the comic book. I'm working on that. I've determined that this summer, if my graphic novel doesn't happen this summer, it's never happening. Okay. Like so
you heard it first here, people. If it doesn't happen this summer, it's not happening. So anyone in Chippewa watching, I want you to keep this man accountable.
Keep me accountable. I gotta do it. So I'm building it in a way that I can do 21 pages, or I can do 32 pages, or I can do 64 pages, depending on how many I can get done. I mean, it's a lot because I'm writing it, I'm drawing it, I'm inking it, I'm coloring it, I'm lettering it, I'm putting it all together, and I'll probably self-publish it unless I can find a publisher who will go for it. But I desperately want to do that. I'm kind of pivoting a little bit just because I don't have all of the live speaking engagements that I did. I think those will be back someday.
Yeah.
But I think I very well think we could be a full year away from that. We could be 2 years away from like large level speaking events.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm working on that. And I love superheroes. I love drawing. Like my mom always says that on Christmas Day, and this is the gospel truth. On Christmas Day, I go open up all of my presents, and I like to enjoy them in the morning, and then like I just go and draw the rest of the day.
Wow.
I'll show you. I got right here. I have my art book that I did. This is over. I keep it with me everywhere I go because, I just try to bring it up in conversation. When people are like, I like art. And I'm like, do you like art? Well, here's my book.
Here, let me show you.
I actually self-published a book. Yeah, this is pretty big book. It is everything that I ever drew. So it starts out like very, very, very childish drawings, like in 6th grade. And it goes, I actually did 4 comic books in high school. They were awful. And unbelievably violent too. Like I go and I read these things now and I'm like, what was wrong with me? But anyhow, and it goes to like all of my t-shirt creations now and all the different stuff. So I self-published
this thing. That?
No, because here's the thing. 1, I don't think anybody really wants it. 2, it's 324 pages of just my artwork with no explanation. And these cost me $38 to print, okay?
Yeah.
So if you had to retail that puppy, you're into like $70 for a book of me. You know what I mean? So I might buy this, but I know you're not going to, okay? I'm a little self-aware. Like I know what will and won't sell. So this is just for me. And the other thing is I like hand this to somebody and they're like, this is a lot. Like I can't I don't want this much. I can't take that much.
Nice.
So
that's cool.
This is you're special. You're a special kid. So yeah, that's what I do in my free time.
Cool.
I'm still hustling. The thing is, I'm doing graphic design. Graphic design is not my first love, but it pays the bills now when I'm not allowed to leave my house. So it's something that I can do. So I'm actually designing album covers, book covers, and then obviously I do tons of T-shirts.
Yeah. And now, Dave,
tons of T-shirts.
Something that a lot of people might not know, something that I learned in college, is that you have a very interesting gift. So when you, like, if you ever see Dave in person and he's not speaking, so if he is directing or he is at like a seminar or something, because I went to a few seminars and John Bernard and I tried to do the same, but it just didn't work. Dave literally will never take a note. Like, I've never seen Dave take a note. No. Instead, he draws. Like, he will draw the whole time, and he will retain the information. Like, he drew, I think, 1 or 2 youth group shirts while we were at a all-day seminar, like 3 hours away.
I can show you that one. I seriously, I know exactly which one that was.
Yeah.
Because I drew it that day, and people were like, "Are you serious?" And I had it like the next week. It was a T-shirt, and they're like, "That's crazy. Don't have it." This was one of them. I did one of them. Like, this was the Ninja Palooza one that I did. And I did that during one of the sessions. Like, I seriously just sat down.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this: I graduated summa cum laude from Geneva, so I got 1 B. And that's my thing. But it would be so funny. When I was younger, teachers would be so angry at me.
Oh, I can imagine.
They'd be enraged. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you, I'm paying attention. If I don't do this, I won't pay attention. Yeah. But if I'm drawing, it's automatic for me.
Yeah.
And then I'm able to calm all my nervous energy into that, and then I can actually open it up and pay attention. I can retain all the knowledge.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, yeah,
it's very awesome.
Or it's terrible, Yeah. My sister does it. It's funny. When I was preaching at Chippewa Alliance, my sister would do it to me. She'd sit in the front row and she would draw. Yeah. And I couldn't be mad.
Yeah.
Because I did it to everybody else. You know?
So let's transition to a little bit more about us. So, Dave, can you tell everyone how you met me and how you met Amy? Because for everyone up in the Erie area, I know Dave very well. Like I said, he's a very close friend. He's my mentor. I served under him when I was in college. But before that, I lived in Beaver County for like a year or 2. I just met Dave, and I moved to New Jersey. And I came back to camp every year, and he was a big reason why. So, Dave, can you share with us how you know me, but also can you share how you know Amy, since you know her so well too?
Sure. So I met Tyler. We officially met when you were in one of my best friend Barry Liker's youth group. So you went to Cup Presbyterian Church, and you were one of his students. You were young though. You were like 6th grade, maybe.
I think 7th grade.
Yeah, something like that. And he brought you out to camp one year you went to camp because of him. So you went when you were in like 7th grade, right?
Yeah.
Because you would have been young. So you went to camp. I know that you moved to New Jersey, and I remember it's really funny. So you came up to me at one of the camps, and forgive me, some of the camps kind of meld together.
Yeah.
You came up to me at one of the camps and you said, "Hey, Dave, I'm going to be a youth pastor, and I want to intern with you." And I don't know how old you were, but I'm like, "Oh, okay, buddy. That's like 5 years from now. Cool." You know what I mean? But I remember you saying that, and I was like, "Yeah, that's down." But I remember like probably the conversation that really started things off was when you had come back from New Jersey. So you had come back and you went to our discipleship camp 4th week.
Yeah.
And you were there, and I believe you were either wearing I don't know, it was a WWE shirt. Okay.
Yeah,
so something like, Kurt Angle, and I think it was either a Kurt Angle shirt or we were talking about Kurt Angle, and we were discussing all of the particulars of WWE. And one of my gifts as a youth pastor is knowing quite a bit of teenage culture. Okay, like at least at the time, like for my 12 years as a youth pastor, I was pretty dialed in and knew a little bit about everything, and some things I knew quite a bit about. I knew a decent bit about WWE because when I was younger, my friends were into it and stuff, and all of that. And so we struck up a conversation. You were just blown away that I knew. Like I didn't just know about like Kurt Angle. I knew about Shawn Michaels. I knew about The Undertaker. I knew about Edge and Christian. I knew about the Hardy Boys. And you were like, "What?" And we were talking, and I had opinions about them too. That was a fun part. Like it was like, I don't like Kurt Angle so much, but I love The Undertaker. I love Shawn Michaels. And all the different things. So we were talking, and like we kind of continued to talk about that, throughout the week and whatnot. And I just remember, having a relationship that, started kind of just talking about wrestling stuff. And then the funny part is you just kept coming back to camp. Like you would travel in pretty far. I mean, there was a girl who used to come from Texas. So she was the furthest.
Yeah, she beat me out. She did.
She beat you out. But you were coming from Jersey, so you were like the second,
Yeah, I had 7 hours, 6.5, 7 hours.
Right. So. And I'll tell you what, too. There's times when I look back on those 4th weeks, that discipleship week of camp. That was the one you came to all the time. And that was, people have asked me what my greatest creation was, and I said, the 4th week's up there. 4th week, we have a lot of fruit from 4th week. It was a really great thing. I mean, it only existed for probably 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I think it lasted like 5 or 6 years. Yeah, so 4th week is what you're talking about when I came up to you. And it was, so Jonesy had that moment, like you had that moment when Jonesy opened up the altar, that decision time. And that was like my 3rd year of camp. So I went to, or 3rd or 4th year, I went to the junior high camps. Then I was too old, but because of New Jersey, I live in New Jersey, I couldn't go to the senior high camp. So then the discipleship camp opened up 4th week, and I was like, I gotta go. I miss camp. So I remember that year, I was 16, and I went to the altar, and I accepted Jesus as my personal savior. And in that moment, I felt like this pull and all I could remember was, I want to do what Dave does. And so like I came up to you, and I hugged you, and I was like, hey, I just gave my life to the Lord. And you hugged me tighter. You goes, that's so awesome, man. And then I said, and I feel like I want to do what you do. Like, I didn't grow up in church. I had no idea what a youth pastor was. I was like going from church to church in New Jersey. I didn't have like that good foundation. And all I knew was, I just want to do what you do, Dave. And you're like, oh, okay, buddy.
Let me tell you what was going through my head at that exact moment. I'm totally serious. I just remember that week was good, but it was so tough. Yeah. And I was so drained, and I was so beat up. And as a youth pastor, I was poor. I was like embattled in all sorts of weird church politics stuff. I had people that were gunning for me, all these crazy things. And you're like, hey, Dave, I want to do what you do. And I'm like, no. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I want you. I mean, like, yes, there's a lot of really good stuff that you can do. But I'm just sitting here looking at all the tough stuff. And I'm like, and there's these, youth ministry is incredibly bipolar. There's these amazing moments that are just like, I traded all. This is awesome. This is what I've worked for. And then there's like the dark night of the soul, despair. Yeah. And it's like, it's so tough. And so you're like, I want to do what you do. And I'm like, every time somebody says that, I will never, and you can attest this, I will never tell somebody they can't. Yeah. Like I never want to be the guy in somebody's biography where they're like, yeah, this was the greatest missionary to ever live. And David Hardy told him he wasn't going to do it. Like, I'm not going to be that guy. I don't want to be that footnote in somebody's story. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be that guy. But yeah, it's really cool. And what's amazing is how God has brought you through, like your story would not be one, I wouldn't look at you and be like, oh yeah, that guy's going to be a youth pastor. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't have looked at you when you were in like 6th, 7th grade and been like, oh yeah, he's going to be a youth pastor. Yeah. But the Lord's hand's been on you, you know, and that's been so, and that affirms what happened there that day when you were 16 years old and you received the call to ministry. You know what I mean? So yeah, But it was really cool. Now, do you want me to tell about Amy? You said you want me to tell about Amy.
Yeah,
too?
and I remember, before you talk about Amy, I remember the first time I remember meeting you was my first year at camp. My grandma dropped me off, and you were there, and I was looking for BJ Liker was my youth pastor. So obviously new around here, no idea what's going on. I'm looking for my youth pastor. Hopefully he'll be here to help me. And he was nowhere to be seen. So I see you and I see Tara, and I don't know if that was the year you got married or what, but I remember that weird shirt of you and Tara on it, of like you guys like kissing or whatever. And I remember I was like, okay, that's pretty okay. Like you drew a shirt about yourself. And then I remember your sister, who draws in front of church, Momo, and she was like your number one fan back then. And she was like,
still is.
She still is. But she was like an obnoxious little junior high fan.
She still is. She still is.
And she was like, yeah, that's my brother and my sister on my shirt. And I was like, okay, okay. So that's the first memory I have.
Yeah. You know, what was really funny is Tara always looked like – Tara's only 2 years younger. She's actually only like a year and a half younger than me.
Yeah.
But she looks like 5, maybe 10 years. I mean, she probably looks 10 years younger than me. You know what I mean? She's short. She's tiny. She's gorgeous. And it's always really awkward because people think that she's a student. You know, like not now. Yeah. But back then when I was, 24 and she was 22, you know what I mean? People are like, what? I'm like, no.
Yeah,
she's my wife. And she's like, that was right when we got married. That was, I mean, so we got married in 2008. So that's,
I remember when Amy and I started dating and we both counseled, I remember all the students thought that Amy was 18, which she was, and they thought I was like 24, 25. I was like, well, now I'm 24, 25. And because I guess I looked the same when I was 18, I was like, what do you mean? Why would I be dating an 18-year-old if I'm 25? Like in that moment, like I didn't know
kids
anybody.
Have no idea how old anybody is. Like, I mean, if you ask a kid how old I am right now, they're going to say like 67. I don't know. They have no clue, how old somebody is.
Yeah.
So,
hey, Owen, it's good to see you, buddy. So why don't you share how you know Amy?
Amy, So I know Amy from camp. I actually am good friends with Amy's dad.
He's a great man.
Amy, yes, Kirby Lance. Yeah, you have to say that. I don't, but I will say it. I love Kirby.
Well, I'll say it, even though I have to say it. I do think they are great outside of being completely biased.
Kirby and Amy, I love them. So Kirby and I had been friends for years prior. Kirby was a senior pastor in my district. And so I knew him from kind of district stuff and whatnot. And he was always really kind to me. Like every experience I had with Kirby was just full of kindness. He's always really, really.
He's the most kind and humble man. Like one of
supportive,
the most kind and humble men I know. Like
and just in a pastor, just has a pastor's heart. Just
he does.
And when he asks you, hey, how are things going? He really genuinely cares.
Yeah.
So, so we had a good relationship forever, and Amy came up through. So, I mean, I knew Amy before you. Yeah. I knew Amy. I mean, I didn't really know her too well, but probably when she was in like 4th and 5th grade. You know what I mean? Like when they started when they came into Beaver. And then Amy, went to camp religiously. I mean, it wasn't just every single year. It was because you guys grew up in the golden age of Suncrest or maybe the twilight years. I don't know. But I mean, it's just a fantastic time where we had, 120 kids and we had we had fall retreats, spring retreats, multiple camps in summer, and Amy went to everything. Amy was at absolutely everything that we did. Amy came to my youth group, Amy went to a few youth groups, but she came to my youth group when she was in high school and whatnot. And, then she, through camp and then she became a leader for me. And, you guys were dating and everything and you guys got married, but she was a leader all throughout. So both of you guys did Turkey Bowl and all those things and survived very well. I remember how tired Amy would be after Turkey Bowl. Amy gets that weird, like half crazed look in her eyes, like, hi, I'm awake, but I'm not really awake because I'm ready to die. Because she had just stayed up for 24 hours at Turkey Bowl.
That was the year that it was like super crazy. We had like 500 people.
444.
I attended camp 5th grade through graduating. So Amy just said that she has attended camp since she was in 5th grade,
I
all the way
believe
through
that.
graduating. Yeah, the 400, and you said 44? That year, Amy had the opportunity to because you assigned leaders to be – you assigned normal leaders to go in, like, one spot, one area, and I was one of the people you just threw in, like, to walk around, do everything.
Mm-hmm.
So Amy was one of the people that got to sit down with Bella. Bella was a great friend that we got to meet through the ministry. And Amy is a coffee connoisseur, so she loves drinking coffee. And that is like when Amy drinks tons of coffee and she is still like exhausted and like her body just can't function. So like she feels like she's energized, but she also isn't. And she still gets that way. Actually, our first year here, our first Super Bowl party, we thought it would be good to like make coffee and like have it for like some of the like older kids and stuff. And no one drank any coffee. I think Michael Guile, which you know,
right? I know
he had
Michael.
one coffee, like one cup of coffee. Amy drank 3/4 of that whole pot. And after the students left at halftime, I'm like, we're sitting down, we're watching the Eagles have this amazing moment defeating the evil Patriots. Bill Belichick is losing his mind. And Amy's just like staring at me, like eyes wide open. She's like, I don't feel okay right now. I was like, you don't look okay. I was like, how much coffee have you had? She's like, a little bit. And I like looked, I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, you're shut down. You're like, no more. You're like, you can't.
You're cut off. You're cut off.
So one of the questions from our students, Riley, she wants to know, who do you like more? Who do you like more, Amy or me?
Amy.
All right. There it is. Riley, if you're watching,
listen,
Dave.
Riley, let me tell you something. I have learned to never, ever, ever bet against the female in a relationship, okay? So Tyler will forgive me, but Amy will beat me up. So if Tyler and Amy are hanging off of a cliff, I gotta choose Amy.
I would hope you would choose Amy at that moment too. So,
I gotta tell you this. My children asked me who was my favorite. So Josiah, Malachi, and Indigo asked me who was my favorite, and without missing a beat, because I always do. I mean, I didn't miss a beat with that one. I looked at Josiah was like, "Which one's your favorite?" And I said, "Clearly, it's Indigo." You know, my daughter who's just born, and he got so mad at me. He's like, "How dare you?" And I'm like, "Buddy, I'm joking. Like, clearly, you can't joke with a 9-year-old, you know." And so then I was like, "No, listen, I love you all." And I said, if all three of you were hanging off of a cliff, I would not be able to save any of you. I would just jump off of a cliff. And he said, well, Dad, that's stupid. I mean, you should save somebody. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I am stupid. So, listen, I love Tyler and Amy equally. But if you're making me choose, Amy would beat me up if I didn't say Amy.
It's fair. Well, she probably would, but it is fair to say that she is your favorite. I'm okay with that. You've known her longer. One of our students, Hannah, wanted to ask you, how did you become my mentor?
I mean, okay, so I would say when the student is ready, the mentor will appear, right, kind of thing. And so I would say that I saw in Tyler like an ardent desire to be authentic and live for Jesus, right? And a mission, like he honestly, he wanted to live this mission. He also didn't know how to live this mission. He did not know how to do this, this Christian life. And specifically, he did not know how to become a youth pastor.
Yeah.
And so Tyler was raw potential. And I would say, if I'm being totally honest, Tyler was very, very raw, like more raw than most of the other guys that I poured into. However, Tyler turned out better than most of the guys in the upper echelon. Why? Maybe Tyler had further to go, but Tyler's passion and drive sustained him. Ultimately, Jesus sustained him. But I saw tons of potential in Tyler that if we can take a few of these things, if we can work a few of these blind spots out, whatnot, this can work. So, but Tyler also chose me, I mean, Tyler kind of, I mean, you pursued me. You
Yeah.
wouldn't let me off the hook. And I would encourage anybody to do that. You know, if you want to be mentored by somebody, don't let them off the hook. You know, say like, I want to be mentored, and I'm not leaving until you mentor me. Like, I want, you know, there's some of that. There's that. I think that there, and a guy who really cares about making disciples will either mentor you or find you a great mentor, because it's inborn within us. Like that's what I'm called to do. I'm called to make disciples who make disciples who make disciples.
Yeah.
Like I have to do that.
Well, thank you, Dave, for those kind words. I remember that. So my graduating year of camp, I was done being a student, and it was another fourth week. Or it was, I believe they were early August or late July, and I was going to Geneva in like 2 weeks time because I played football my freshman year, so we moved in early. And I remember Dave talking to me about, hey, when you get to college, do you want to be one of my youth leaders? I was like, yeah, of course. Like I told you 2 years ago, I want in. And he was like, okay. He said, you know, at college, you'll have the opportunity to go to different youth groups, to experience different things, to be a leader. I want to encourage you if you want to do that. And I looked at him, I said, no, I don't want to do that. I want to stay and I want to learn. I see the good in like going to different ministries, seeing from different guys and different people in the roles. But I learned so much from Dave, and I learned so much from the people Dave was around. Like I learned a lot from,
and I think for you, like, so if you would have gone to 4 different churches through those 4 years, I do not think that you're where you're at now. I think that you went to Chippewa Alliance, you became a staple. Like, the kids cried for Tyler leaving as much as they cried for me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there was as much emotion when Tyler, like Hunter McKeel, you still have a kid who comes, you know, to your events.
Yeah, Hunter was in here. He's watching.
Right. You know, I mean, like, you were a staple of that youth group. In essence, you got to be like a junior youth pastor before you became a youth pastor.
I was the junior youth pastor.
I know you were. We saw videos about it.
There are videos. Yeah. So we made office parodies of me being the junior youth pastor, and I like lived in the church and did like different funny things, and Dave would pop up and be like, "What are you doing?" Right. That was our little.
You lived in the boiler room.
Yep, I lived in the boiler room. The baptism was my my shower and my bathtub.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, that was one fun night of
filming things. Yeah. Couldn't find that laptop though.
No, you couldn't. You couldn't. I hope you find it. I hope you.
Yeah.
Find
no, I found it. I found it.
Good. Good. I hope you. If you're missing a laptop, you better go check it out after this.
Yeah.
So.
I definitely will. So, but yeah. I think that you did really well being with us and being like kind of, you know, locking in there. So, you know,
and I remember, I think that like, I think it could be good, like for people to go, but like for me, and like, you know, yourself, like if you feel called into ministry, you'll know if you need like I gelled really well with Dave. Dave understood me. Dave took the time to listen to me, and he took the time to meet me where I was at. So it helped me a lot. So when I was growing in my ministry, like in college and in my spiritual life, I had new opportunities because I stuck around. When you took your sabbatical, Johnny was already working at the church. So he was doing his children's ministry stuff. So I took over the youth group. I was in like my junior year of college, I think it was junior year of college, and I was running youth group with all the leaders and stuff. I had those opportunities because I stayed and I had those opportunities, and this is gonna sound terrible, but just hear me out. Okay. You know, too, because you had been so loyal and faithful, I promised you I was gonna do everything in my power to find you a good place, right? Like, I mean, after this, I wanted you to succeed. And Lamech and I are friends. Like that was not coincidental that you ended up at Girard. Like, I have a history with, you know, Lamech and I, again, you know, we go way back. We've been doing ministry together for when I first got in 12 years ago. Yeah. My youth pastor, Jeff, was actually from Girard Alliance. You know, so I had stayed at Girard Alliance when I was in 8th grade. So like I knew Girard Alliance. And when we were talking about good fits and I was giving you a recommendation,
I think it carried some weight. And so I was able to speak into that.
Yeah.
And I think that I know, listen, I know that you are where God has you, like, or God
I
wants
truly
you.
believe that.
Like, there's no doubt in my mind that Girard Alliance is the place for Tyler and Amy Puharich, to do ministry. I just know that.
Yeah, and I think another thing, because I didn't have a church background, I fell in love with the mission of the CMA because of like where I was at in college. Like I went to a CMA camp, but I never knew what the CMA was or anything about that, like at all. So when I finally like got to college and I was like, yeah, I want to go to whatever church you're at, Dave. Then I began to learn about who the Christian Missionary Alliance was and their belief and their views. And I just felt like this was my family. Like I feel a part of the Alliance family. And that's why I'm working towards licensing and ordination and different things, because I want to continue with that, because I just, as I fell in love with ministry and just my calling furthered, I began to see that my calling was in the Christian Missionary Alliance. So I just, it's been quite an interesting ride, to say the least. So if you were at the retreat and you're watching, Dave told the story of the Suncrest War, which was this crazy moment in my first year of camp. So the year that I shoved Amy and she did a flip, Thursday night, there was a war between the invading made-up Mooncrest of, you said 8 adults, and the 72 junior hires with their pillows and the shirts. We talked about it after. The youth shirt, so like the camp shirt that week, it gave you superpowers. You were immune to Mooncrest that night. So we were like hyped up. Kids were drinking tons of Mountain Dew, and they had adrenaline going, and they were in it. And I remember, in my perspective, that I heard all week about this evil Mooncrest. And like the last year, I missed the last year because there was a huge wrestling match, which no one knew I was big into pro wrestling. So hearing that like Suncrest Man, who was Dave, defeated Mooncrest Man in this epic wrestling match, I was like, the heck? Like, why did I not come here last year? Like, that sounds awesome. And at the end of the week, we had this huge battle. And I remember the Mooncrest Man, like the Mooncrest, like worker or invader, or whatever you want to call him. I ripped off his mask, and it turned out to be my current youth pastor, BJ Liker. And I was like, you traitor. And I just started like wailing on him more. I ripped his pool noodle that he had out of his hands. And like, I was whipping him around with his pool noodle and my pillow. And he was like running in fear. So if BJ was one of the people that like talked to you afterwards, I was the reason why. So he did it to himself, really.
BJ has never forgiven me for that. He told me I owe him, and I still haven't been able to pay that debt off.
BJ, I love BJ, and I'm so thankful for BJ being invested in my life and like my family's life, because we just got plugged back into church. Like, it was the first time I got plugged into church, and like my family got plugged in as like who our family was at the time. And I was so thankful for BJ. But the one thing that he brings up every time I see him now, like literally the only thing, like Amy has met him like with me, I think 3 times. And the 3 times that we've met him, he brings up the fact that when I was a junior hire, like the little bit of time I was at his youth group, he would do youth group at his house because he had the parsonage, which is the home sometimes like that the church owns. It's like right next door or whatever. I am very fidgety, right? So I have restless leg syndrome, which I don't think is real, but I have it. And I'm just so fidgety. Like, I'm moving in my chair right now. Well, as a junior hire, I was even more fidgety. So like, he had this nice chair that could only fit one person, and I didn't want to sit by anyone else. So I sat on this chair, and I would like sit, and then I would like lay on it, and like I would stretch out. And he talks about every time how I almost broke his chair. That's the only thing he brings up, is the fact that Tyler Puharich almost broke my favorite chair 12 years ago.
Timmy Blackburn broke one of my chairs, so I still remember it to this day.
Timmy Blackburn and I shared a dinner box at my first Jolt that he will always let me never forget, which was a great moment.
Great moment.
So my perspective of it was super awesome. Throughout the week, Suncrest Man would come while we were at service and drop off vintage Suncrest Man and Suncrest Man Jr. shirts that only a few kids got, which I was never one of those lucky kids. I was never one of the kids on the top bunk that got it. But it just wasn't for me, I guess. But I think I still have that shirt of that intermediate camp. It was like that weird side design. Like, I love Dave's artwork, but he sometimes makes the weirdest designs, and that is one of them. Like the weird, like it's on like you're almost like the hip of your shirt.
You gotta understand. I've made
like
probably 100,000 T-shirts at this point in time. I gotta switch it up, man. You know what I mean?
I know.
I gotta switch it up.
Oh man. So do you have any other stories? I think Amy asked, from your perspective, what was I like as a student? So maybe you can share, although I was never in your youth group.
Wait, what was Tyler? What was Tyler like? Or Amy? Which one? Because Amy was quiet. Amy was not like, Amy followed the rules, didn't cause me any problems. So that's what Amy was like. If you're asking what Tyler was like as a student, I can speak to what Tyler was like as a student at camp.
Yeah, how was I at camp?
Yeah, you were the unbearably annoying kid who always was highly competitive with everybody, and I had to talk people down from like fighting you all the time because your cabin was the refuse to lose cabin, and you constantly were, and you won everything. It was
we
ridiculous.
Did that week. We won everything that week. It was the fourth week. And later down the line, like, God is so merciful, because that week I met John Bernard, and I think he and Katie were just getting married, or they were already married. I can't remember, but I knew Katie since I was a kid because she went to a few like cup youth events, and like I always remembered Katie, and then I met her.
So you knew Katie before Johnny knew Katie.
Maybe, but I was at a little annoying junior high.
Johnny and Katie went to high school together and never talked. Like, they ended up getting married. They were in the same graduating class. They never talked to each other. And
Blackhawk's not even that big.
I know.
But so I met John, but the problem was I met John and he was the other guy cabin. He was not in the refuse to lose cabin. Yeah. He was in the calm, subtle cabin that kept losing.
He was in the drink coffee cabin.
Yeah. And John's competitive too. So the fact of the matter that I was one of those annoying senior high people that was the refuse to lose, I thought, and then the next 2 years that I was a camper, John was my counselor. And I thank the Lord for that, because Johnny went from like this someone that I felt very awkward around because I was that obnoxious to becoming a friend, someone that I got to share with. And then we ended up both going to Geneva at the same time. And he became one of my best friends. He was the best man at my wedding. And his wife, Katie, was our matron of honor. Those two are huge impacts in the Puharich home. And I just thank God for that. But it was very funny the first time because I was that. And I remember that year at the end of the week, I had a shirt that I convinced my counselor to cut down the sides. I wanted to have the shirt like Shawn Michaels. So I had the cuts the full way down, and that was the only shirt I wore. And at the end of like Friday night when like camp's about to be over, I wanted to make it a cape and just run around without a shirt on, like shirtless junior high Tyler with a cape on. And I remember I had to go like ask permission from you, and you were like so spent by the end of the week. You're like, I don't care. Just take your ice cream, take your wings, and just cut your shirt more. I don't care. So I ran around with a little cape. I think that's one of the memories Amy has of me too. So I wanted to ask you, Hannah also wanted to ask, this is going to be like kind of bebopping through. How did you know you wanted to be a pastor?
When I was 16, it was like a supernatural call from the Lord. I really didn't want to be a pastor. prior to that. A lot of people had brought that up, had said you have the natural gifting for it, which I would agree with. You know, there's a lot of things that I have that just make sense. But it wasn't until that point, until I received that specific call, that I knew that I was. I mean, it wasn't a want to thing. It was I was called to this. Like I was built for this. I was born for this. This was Ephesians 2:10. These were the good works that were prepared in advance for me to do. So that was how I determined that. I mean, there were mentors who affirmed that.
Yeah.
And it's still something that, like, I love, like, I love youth ministry. I know that, there's only so many all-nighters that a person can do when they're 36 years old. And so I'm trying to transition into a situation where I can train youth pastors, and I can speak into the lives of students as a youth evangelist. And so that's my outlet right now. So I always, like, if I have it my way, I'd always like to be involved in youth ministry. I'd like to be, a 65, 75-year-old adult leader somewhere. You know what I mean? I'd love to be helping train and guide. I think the world is changing. That's my concern with some of the stuff. And I don't know that I'm going to be able to be a vocational, like me personally, as I get older, to be a vocational youth pastor. I think it's going to be harder the longer that we go. I think we're probably headed towards about 50% of pastors being bivocational, and that's okay. And I will probably be one of them in the role that I want to be in. And I'm completely at peace with that, because there's a certain freedom that you get in ministry to be able to do that long term. But just with the world changing as it is, I think that we're headed toward more. The vocational element is just tough. Church budgets aren't what they were, and they probably won't be what they were after this pandemic. So I think we have to think creatively. Okay. But I love youth ministry, and I'll always love youth ministry.
What can you share? Maybe one of your favorite youth ministry moments, whether it be camp, or at youth group, or retreats, or can you just give maybe one story or some a brief highlight of a few things since you've had 12-year tenure, whatever, of ministry?
Yeah, I mean, I would say hands down my favorite moments are the proclamation moments, the come to Jesus moments. So when you have the altar completely filled at Suncrest Camp, and counselors praying with kids, and kids doing business with Jesus, and lives literally being changed. Like there's nothing better. That's, you look at that and you say, this is why we do what we do. Some of the best moments I've had, seeing, like, we had a baptismal, baptisms are awesome. I love baptisms. I love the public declaration of faith. And there was one baptism that we had relatively recently, within the past few years. And it was like, every kid would get up there, and it wasn't planned. It would be like, I was saved at Suncrest Camp. Boom. I was saved at Suncrest Camp. Boom. I was saved at Suncrest Camp. And I'm just like overwhelmed. I just start crying, because it's just this realization that there is deep eternal value in what we had been doing, pouring into lives. So all those transformational moments I absolutely loved. I loved the chaos of Turkey Bowl, the controlled chaos. I loved having 444 kids in a church and trying to figure out ways to bust them all down to the bowling alley, bring them all back up, make sure they all got home. Like, I mean, I just remember that 444 night, like, it was so awesome. Kids on kids on kids on kids on kids coming in, making relationships, connections, and those sorts of things. I knew it cost something. It was always like really, really hard. We pushed it to the absolute limit. We were bursting at the seams, but it was, it was a really, really, really cool experience. Something that I remember. I'll take to my grave.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'll tell you that my real fast. My favorite one, probably of all time, was at my final service. I got to preach at my final service at Chippewa Alliance. my wife got up and played the song "Rescue" by Lauren Daigle, and she said, "This is your song to all of these kids." And then actually, she said, "During this song, if your life has been impacted by Pastor Dave, would you please stand up?" And as the song played, watching kids just stand up all over the congregation, and then everybody stood up, and then I preached, was like you couldn't write a better ending.
Yeah.
I felt like I was preaching at my own funeral, which is almost unfair, but it was a beautiful moment that money can't buy.
Yeah. That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Just trying to make sure that I got everyone's, because sometimes I miss people's questions. And then, so something that I've been asking as we begin to close, something I've been asking everybody who's been on.
Mm-hmm.
Why should someone go to church?
Mm-hmm.
Why should someone read their Bible? Why should someone pray? Why should a family get plugged into a church? Why should they send their kids to children's ministry, to youth ministry, to retreats, to camps? Like, why in general? And if you want to speak specifically to our students as well about why they should be plugged into youth ministry, but in general, why is it important to go?
Sure. Yeah. The answer that I would give right now is, that deep, disconnected, isolated feeling that you have during this quarantine, that yearning for community that screams within your soul, that was put there by a reason. There is a definitive reason that you feel that way, and the reason is you were not meant to do this on your own. The church is the body of Christ, the bride of Christ. You can't separate the church from Christ. That's like making me choose Amy or Tyler, Jesus or the church. Well, I guess I have to choose Jesus, but really, honestly, it's both. You take them both. They're the few heretics. And the church is the bride of Christ. I absolutely love the bride of Christ. I love the community. I love the people. I love the impact that we have, that we are definitively better together. So why should you be a part of church? There's every imaginable reason that you can be part of this vibrant body of Christ that will help you identify your gifts, grow in the Spirit, mobilize you to go make an impact in this world for Jesus. There is no other entity that will do that for you in a better way. I mean, other than the church. Now, the church has different looks, right? Like there's different organizations and different things and missions groups and all that different stuff. But that is the church. Why should you study your Bible? So that ultimately that Jesus. This is how we know Jesus. Jesus is the Word, right? Like, John says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Jesus, I mean, if you take it like to the furthest degree, Jesus is the Word. Okay, and that's what we are studying. So you need to know about him. That's how getting to know him. Why would we pray? Prayer is not you listing off a list of non-negotiables to the Almighty. Prayer is a conversation. Prayer is communion with the God who made you and the God who knows you better than anybody ever could know you. Yeah. And prayer is actually a lot of listening. That's a lot of prayer is listening. A lot of prayer is reaching out. Prayer is meant to change you. A lot of times we're trying to change God's mind as our prayers. Honestly, that's what we try to do. And that might even be heretical if you take that to this furthest degree. Thank God he repackages our prayers as Romans 8 says. But ultimately, prayer is communion with the Creator. There is nothing more important that you can do. And we're called to pray unceasingly. We're called to never be disconnected from that. And so prayer is connecting to your source, the source of your power, who is ultimately the Holy Spirit, ultimately God.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you got a little sermon right there.
Amen, brother. Amen. Thankful for it.
You're going to get a sermon.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I think we need to hear that. We as the church need to hear that. We who are young, who are hungry spiritually, need to hear that. So just so you know, Dave, you didn't get to hear who the winner was. Nate Jones won.
Hey! Good job,
Survivor.
Nate.
And it was a crazy good weekend.
What does he win?
He wins, depending on what he could get like a church, like a youth group shirt, but like he could do it like any style. So like if he wants a shirt, a crew neck, a hoodie, and stuff like that.
Nice.
Or if he would rather take a gift card, he'll get a gift card. So depends on what he wants.
Nice. Good.
So you do graphic design. You have designed our logo, Foundation Student Ministry. You did our church logo, our Girard Alliance. You print our shirts and everything. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to screen share from live, but if I can, I'd like to let me see if I can pull it up. I'd like to show everyone our logo for let's see if it's going to work. I don't know if can you see this, Dave?
I just see it says Tyler Perrickus. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. So there
show.
is the Sunday Night Show logo, because we are looking to continue this with this Sunday Night Show after the social distancing is over. We'd like to continue it, whether it be every week or once a month or every once in a while after youth group, after both youth groups are over. I'll hop on, whether we do it live or have something up. But yeah, so Dave, thanks for doing this awesome logo. It's kind of like logo inception, because this is a logo, but then this shirt is also your logo. And thank you. I finally am on a legitimate logo. A damn bull, just being damn bull, got tons. I had to ask, and then the idea came. I didn't ask to be on the Sunday Night Show logo. This was Dave's idea. But I jokingly talked about how I could be on a logo, and here I am. So this is the Sunday Night Show logo. We're going to try to incorporate that as much as we can. So thank you, Dave.
And as you change your facial hair, you asked me if I could change that. So we can do goatees, Tyler. We can do Fu Manchu, Tyler.
Yeah.
We can do Mohawk, Tyler. Like, we can. The sky's the limit. You know
okay.
What I mean?
I think that'd be fun. We should. I feel like I should try to do different hairstyles and facial hairstyles just to see if you can do it.
I hear you.
To challenge you. So, is there anything else you'd like to talk about tonight, Dave? We have a few more minutes. Anything that you'd like to talk about? I know that I asked you a lot of questions and we went down some different paths, but anything you'd like to bring up?
Yeah, I remember the greatest fantasy football trade of my career.
Oh.
I remember the greatest fantasy football trade of my career when I convinced you to trade Darren Sproles. I had Darren Sproles, and you gave me Demaryius Thomas
in his good time.
Oh yeah, the week before he went off for like 5 touchdowns every week. It was insane, and really tanked you out. And I know that you've beaten me here and I've beaten you there, but I just feel like that was one of my crowning moments of fantasy football glory.
Dave Hardy, now that you bring it up, Dave Hardy takes advantage of people in fantasy football.
I do.
I am one of those people.
I set all of my morals aside for fantasy football.
I was my first year legitimate fantasy football. I knew
you
Darren
talk
Sproles.
So much smack about fantasy football.
Well, I'm a smack talker. You know that.
Yeah.
I'm a smack talker, and now I can back it up. So I got taken advantage of. I didn't even make playoffs. I got ridiculed forever. But then this happened, right? Then I won. And then it was my final year at Chippewa. And I wasn't sure if I'd be back by the end of the beginning of the next season, because I was looking to get a job. And I remember at that draft, I said I was going to be back-to-back champion. And you heckled me and everyone else heckled me. And who won that championship, Dave?
I'd have to go back and look in the archives because
Jordan's watching. Jordan, who won that year?
I don't remember.
I'll tell you, I won that year.
Yeah.
And the best part was I beat Jordan because that first year of fantasy football, I also dropped Odell. I was like the 5th person to drop Odell, but I was the one to drop him right before the catch. So I got made fun of by Jordan Hammond for 4 years also for being so bad at fantasy football. So my final year, I was the back-to-back champion. Okay, I got the belt. I got the bragging rights. My final year, and in the final championship game, I faced Jordan, who barely got there. I had the 3-headed monster of 3 great running backs. I had so much potential. I gave Dave a great trade to give him an opportunity to get into playoffs. He gave me Lev Bell, who was, still actually playing and not being bad on the Jets. And so I had Ezekiel Elliott. I had Lev Bell. I forget who else I had. But I was just dominating. In my final game, I got to play Jordan. And when I found out I was leaving and Star Wars Episode 8 came out, I jokingly told Jordan that Jordan said, I've been making fun of you for much longer than 4 years. I told Jordan as we went to go see Star Wars for the second time, I said, I feel like Luke Skywalker at the end of the movie. Like me leaving Chippewa, back-to-back champs, beating Dave and beating you in the championship. I feel like Luke, I can just disappear from Chippewa forever. But instead of my cloak floating away like to the wind, I take the belt with me. I still have the belt in my office. It's sitting proudly. We use it for different youth ministry events now. So like anytime someone wins, I just bring out the belt and they take a picture with it. But I have that. So I get to hold the fact that I defeated everyone my final year. And then I brought fantasy football to Girard. I won the first year, and then I got destroyed this past year. So, yeah, fantasy football, we play. I brought you into the league. I created a league. John Bernard and I created a league just because we were tired of Dave's rules, and we wanted to not invite Dave because Dave was a part of like 10 leagues, and he was just absurd. And then Dave eventually joined the league that we made like to get around Dave.
Pretty sure that I beat you in your own league this year pretty badly this year.
Actually, I believe game. Kevin, I don't know if Kevin's watching right now, but Kevin is the one who defeated everyone in the league. Kevin,
yeah, he did. He
destroyed everybody in the league.
Lamar freaking Jackson.
Yep. And actually, I'm in another league, so I'm in Pastor Lamick's family league. So it's Kevin's side of the family, so Anne-Marie's side. And Pastor Lamick's father-in-law, Kevin and Anne-Marie's dad, gave me an award. Usually there's only one award for the winner, which was Kevin in that league also. I got an award of a quarterback being sacked, and I have the biggest bonehead award because I dropped Lamar Jackson before the season. I didn't know he was going to go off. Before last season, the Ravens looked to be the 4th seed in the AFC North, okay? It looked bad for them. I dropped them. Kevin took him, and his team name was Thank You, Tyler, for the Jordan says shout out to the 30-point defenses because I played defensive a lot. So, yeah, Kevin won in multiple leagues, and I was trashed, destroyed utterly in every league I played in last year. The church league, the family league, our league, even in the dynasty league that I joined, yeah, bad year for fantasy, but it's looking up this year.
Yeah,
it's looking up. Unlike the Steelers' hopes and dreams of the team drafting a quarterback, but
yeah. I got nothing. I've been so down about the Steelers draft. I wanted us to take Dobbins so bad, and we didn't take him. It broke my heart. I have no idea who? Dobbins. I wanted Dobbins as a Steeler. J.K. Dobbins.
Oh.
Ohio State. Oh, he would have been a beast. And we didn't take him, and the Ravens took him. And we're going to have to play him twice a year every year, and he's going to just be a Steeler killer. You mark my words.
Yeah, I was surprised we didn't take a quarterback, especially since like Jake Fromm drops to the 4th round. Jalen Hurts dropped to the second round.
Yeah, but nobody wanted him. That was weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's something wrong.
He went to being projected to be, like, when he came out of high school, projected to be the number 1 draft pick of 2020. And then he made it to the 4th round.
I know.
Maybe we'll tank this year and we'll get Trevor Lawrence, because I think it's not who can win the Super Bowl. What is it? Super Bowl 50. What Super Bowl are we on? 50 whatever. It's not the race to see who can win the Super Bowl this year. It's the race to see who could be so bad that they get Trevor Lawrence in next year's draft.
Yep. Crazy times. Crazy
times. But now we're getting off track talking about football, and that's not what anyone tuned in for. So, hey, Pastor Dave, thank you so much for taking this time tonight to talk. I am forever thankful for the ministry that you served in my life, the roles that you played and that you continue to be a part of. And I know many people that are thankful for you accepting that call at 16 to pursue ministry. So thank you. And if you haven't got to hear this man preach, you got to tune in somewhere. He has a gift. He definitely has a gift. And I'm very thankful for the retreat that he was just a part of. So this is our closing statement. So Pastor Dave, thank you.
Absolutely.
And I'm hoping to be back next week with another few guests. I know next Sunday is Mother's Day, so we might see how it goes. I don't know if we will be live or not, but thank you all for tuning in tonight. And this is Tyler P. Herrick signing off of the Sunday Night Show. Thank you, Pastor Dave.
Good night.
See ya.
Bye.